Hey guys, welcome back to the His and Her Rewatch podcast where we watch movies that he likes.
And watch movies that she likes.
I'm the His Caleb, and with me, as always, my talented wife, the Her, Megan. Megan, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for always having me.
Yeah. Wouldn't have it any other way.
The permanent co-host, right?
That's permanent coast. Hey, you rocking it, so you get to stay.
Appreciate it.
Well, this is our third episode, so
Yeah.
This is exciting. At this point, just dropped our second episode online onto the Apple Podcast. So we are recording our third one and trying to get ahead of things so we can make sure they're available for when it's time to come out. So
Yeah. I think batch contenting is super important. I know I do it in my business a lot, and I know a lot of content creators do it, and it just kind of frees up your time whenever you batch content things. So even though our batch contenting has to involve watching the actual movie.
right, we have a lot of work to do to get to the point where we can batch it, So
Yeah.
So getting ahead of things, and I know we were busy this past weekend, so we found time to get the movie in and take the notes and get it ready to go. So we're recording, but we do have a busy month coming up, so we're trying to get these out there, get these available and ready to go.
Yes.
For all our wonderful fans we have, right?
Yes, yeah, I know. Everybody's been super supportive and amazing, and it's really been really fun to see everybody's comments. And or not really see, we actually have heard a lot of comments, and some people asking, what is it that we're doing?
Yeah.
Like we're still trying to figure it out, but I think we've got a good formula going on. We're going to try to do more of a flow with our podcasts, and even like stuff behind the scenes as far as watching them, taking notes, and we're still working with social media. We just got our Instagram up.
Instagram.
Yep, we
you're
are
in charge of that.
Yeah, I'm in charge of Instagram. That's my wheelhouse. Anyways,
So look for us on the gram.
Yep,
Is that what the cool kids say? The gram.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's at His and Her Podcast as HISANDHER Rewatch, not podcast. I'm sorry.
yeah.
At His and Her
Rewatch.
Podcast. Oh, Rewatch. Dang it, I said it again.
His and Her Rewatch.
I actually searched. I was trying to find it I was on my own my own Instagram account. I was trying to find our podcast account. And I wrote His and Her Podcast. And I'm like, where is it? Why is it not on here? And then I went back and looked, and I was like, oh, it's His and Her Rewatch.
Yeah, you were the one who wrote it.
Yeah, I'm the one that made the account. So, yeah, it's super simple. It's at His and Her Rewatch on Instagram.
And then we do have a Facebook page.
Yes, we have a Facebook page. Same thing, His and Her
I think
Rewatch.
you use the and sign, but on that one.
Oh yeah, you can't do that on Instagram, I don't think. But yeah, we're doing more posting on there. We actually may even have a logo change coming up soon.
We'll try to make it better looking.
Yeah.
There's a lot of changes as we grow. I mean, editing. I'm trying to incorporate some sound bites and stuff into the podcast. So if you like those, let me know. Try to do my best.
All improvements for sure as we go, learning and getting better and improving the quality of our work.
On the quality.
The quality. But yeah, I know you're super excited about this movie. We're gonna podcast about. Is that a word?
Yeah,
is podcast a verb? I don't know.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I'm ready to talk about. So as y'all knew from our last episode, we teased that our new, or I guess we teased what we do.
We did, yeah, we teased
I guess
about
we tease it, or just.
Well, it's also in the title of this podcast.
Well, mentioned, yeah, we mentioned what we were doing. We were mentioned that we're going to watch and review Goldeneye.
Name's Bond. James Bond.
The world's most famous secret agent is back.
We aim to please.
And this time, 007 is facing the ultimate enemy. The man who knows him best.
Hello, James. What an unpleasant surprise.
006.
What's the message? No pithy comeback?
James Bond,
007.
Goldeneye, 007.
Yeah.
And like I said, I am a huge James Bond fan. I've been since I was about the time this movie came out. So that would have been 95. And so that I would have been 11. So that was about the time I'm probably getting into finding what I like and don't like and impressionable years. And so
Y'all don't even understand how much of a fan he is, okay? So let me tell you. All right, so when I met Caleb, I had never watched any James Bond movies. Maybe a Pierce Brosnan one with my dad. I don't know. But our engagement party was a James Bond themed engagement party.
yes, it was. I actually forgot about that.
Did you really?
Yeah, that was in Oklahoma.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and you flew out to Oklahoma.
Yep.
And we had a James Bond themed party.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep, that was really fun. I remember that. And we had some good pictures from that. And
Oh, we should, if we could find those. That was probably pre-digital age.
oh yeah, well,
Not pre-digital, but it was
I
pre-social
think I have
media.
some. Yeah, oh, definitely pre social media. I think I did definitely have some on Facebook. I think I've posted because that was back in the day when Facebook was for college students. So I had a Facebook page, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll have to share those on the Instagram.
I used to have a game, James Bond trivia game.
Oh, yeah,
and
the video?
no, it was just a. It was.
I thought it was a video. Wasn't it like a
No,
DVD you put in and it would like? No, okay. I thought
Not
it was
that
something
one.
else.
No, I just had. It was like I don't know what kind of board game. It was Trivial Pursuit or some kind, or I don't know, but. Like no one would ever play with me, so it was
Yeah.
like I would just.
It was pointless.
Yeah, it was pointless. No one would play with me. So, I mean, I even had like a burnt CD, custom made where I had all the James Bond theme songs on a CD.
Yep.
Like pre-Spotify and all that. It was like, I think it was 20 films at the time and had all 20 theme songs on a CD I would play.
Yeah, I think they played that at the party. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I had, I used to know the order, the year, who played in each, who was the lead in all the films. I know a lot still. I had to refresh myself a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you have a lot more content taking up your brain space nowadays. But
I remember going to movie gallery back in the day when I was a young teenager and stuff. I would go to movie gallery and they'd have the backlogs of James Bond films, and I'd go pick up a couple and watch those, and then it would always come on. I think it was like TNT or whatever, Christmas 7 days of 007 or something. They would always do every year, and I would watch all that. So I've seen all of them several times, especially my favorites. I've seen a lot. But
yeah,
Yeah.
and you've made me watch quite a few of them. But what made Goldeneye your favorite? I'm assuming it's your favorite since you made us watch it again.
It's probably my favorite. It's definitely my favorite Pierce Brosnan film. I mean, like I said, it was. We can get into a little bit how much of an impact it was. I mean, this movie was, like I said, it came out when I was 11. I probably didn't watch it in theaters. I got introduced to it probably in that time, in the next year or so. I got introduced to it, and then it was. Probably the biggest thing was the video game that came out in the 90s on the Nintendo 64. And if anybody, especially male, that is my age, knows exactly what I'm talking about, that you played Nintendo 64, it was the beginning of the multiplayer video games that led for what we have today. It started it all. Like, it was before Halo and all these other games, and it was a first real multiplayer game, and me and my buddies would spend hours playing multiplayer.
I remember my dad playing this
007.
game.
Yeah.
My dad was a huge 007 video game fan, and I just remember him growing up. He loved that. I don't remember being on the 64.
Oh, it was Nintendo 64. Yeah.
Or was it ever on the? Maybe it was a 64. I knew we had a Nintendo 64 for a long time, but I don't remember what we had after that. But
yeah, it was on the 64, and it was revolutionary. The multiplayer game was revolutionary, and so I played all those.
And it was the Goldeneye.
Goldeneye, yeah.
Gotcha.
And there was other James Bond.
That was the
video
first one that
games.
came out.
Yeah, that would have been the first one, but it was just, it was, and that's like a whole nother podcast to talk about the video game. But I think that had a lot to do with it, the impression that it had on me. But I mean, this film was, I mean, it brought in a new era for James Bond, because this movie was 6 years from the previous James Bond film with Timothy Dalton, and since the Timothy Dalton film, License to Kill, the communist Russia had fallen, so this movie is really ushering in a new era of like spy movies and James Bond specifically from the older styles and stuff to a new modern film and stuff as far as James Bond
Was this
goes.
Pierce Brosnan's first movie with 007? Okay.
It was his first.
How did everybody take that as him being James Bond? Were they for it? Were they against it? Didn't really care?
I'm sure that there's always that pushback from
one
the
crowd,
older, the crowd that pushes back. It's like, oh no, it can't.
Now,
be.
who was before him?
Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton.
Okay,
Okay.
you
Now
wanna
he
go-
wasn't a popular one, right?
No, he wasn't probably. He only
Yeah.
did 2 films. He
Okay.
replaced Roger Moore. Originally in the 80s, when they replaced Roger Moore with Timothy Dalton, they wanted Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
But Pierce Brosnan was in contract with he was on a show called Remington Steele in the 80s.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. It was a TV show, ran for 5 years from 82 to 87, and I think he was a thief or something. I never seen it. I watched the trailer for it just so I'd see what it was, but I saw a scene in the trailer. He's like wearing a tuxedo, I guess, a lot in this. So I'm like, oh look, he just looks like James Bond.
Yeah, that's
running
probably why
around
they
into
even
it.
just
but
wanted him for
they did
it.
want him back in the 80s to replace Roger Moore. Since he couldn't, they did what Timothy Dalton did. And then they had, like I said, they did 2 movies, and then there was a 6-year gap between. And originally, when they were doing casting James Bond for Goldeneye, he was not the first choice, but he did end up getting the role. So it was a long time coming for Pierce Brosnan to be James Bond.
And how many films did he do with them?
He did 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the most or
Oh no. So we want to break it. You want me to go ahead and break it down?
how far are you gonna break it down?
I'm gonna break down the actors. The actors.
Okay.
So
do it in under a minute. I'm just kidding.
I know, right? So this is going to be a long podcast.
I've already told him he needs to try to get it under an hour. I feel like under an hour is like a good time, a good listening time in traffic, and people are driving around.
Well,
but this is James Bond. This is his baby here.
Yeah. I was already worried I was not going to do as good a job.
Yeah, like do
Talking
it justice.
about do it
Yeah.
justice, do James Bond justice as the way I would want it to be done. But we'll talk. I'll go ahead and talk about the actors and how we got to and where they went from there.
Okay, speed round.
So Sean Connery, the OG James
Sean
Bond.
Connery. Yes.
Sean Connery, the original James Bond. Sean Connery he starred in Dr. No, and then
I really did actually like those films. Those were the ones.
I like the old ones.
I like Sean Connery. I don't know anything about Roger Moore or Timothy Dalton. Couldn't even tell you what they look like.
Yeah.
But Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan,
Brosnan, yeah.
Brosnan, okay. And then what's the one
Daniel
we have?
Craig, yeah.
Daniel Craig. Those are the top 3 in my opinion. Well,
So-
there's 5, right? Or there
So
more than 5?
you got Sean
You're
Connery.
about to tell me.
and
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I keep skipping ahead. I'm sorry.
So you got Sean Connery did 6 films.
Okay.
He did 5, and they replaced him in 1969 with George Lazenby. He did 1 film.
Okay, I do know who that is.
That was a terrible film. The cinematography was whack.
What was that one called?
That was called On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Okay, I think I've seen that one.
I don't know. I've only seen that one like twice, probably.
I think I saw it on TV once.
But then
Maybe just his
then
name
actually,
title
and then he
reminded me
came,
of it.
and then in '71, Sean Connery came back and did a 6th film with Diamonds Are Forever.
So weird.
And then Roger Moore took over in the '80s. In the '70s and '80s. He did 7 films.
Wow.
Yeah,
He must have did them back to back.
He did. It was like every other year for like
Wow. Cranking
like
them out.
16 years or whatever it was. A long time. He did it, like I said, 70s and 80s every other year. Then they replaced Roger Moore in '87 with Timothy Dalton, and he did The Living Daylights and License to Kill. And then Pierce Brosnan took over. They had that long gap like we talked about, and In 2006, they kind of revamped the franchise with Daniel Craig.
You said
and he was
you said Pierce Brosnan did
4.
4. Okay, and Daniel Craig has done 4, right? Or 5?
He's done 5.
5.
Yeah,
Okay.
He did 5 this past year. Was his 5th.
Okay.
And his were Daniel Craig's were a lot more spread out than all the other James Bond.
It did seem, yeah, it was a
Yeah.
large gap in between those.
There's some of them that have very large gaps. So Sean Connery, the OG. I think it's tie for me. It's a tie between Pierce Brosnan and Sean Connery for the best James Bond. To me, I understand where everybody else would argue that Daniel Craig's the best, or
I think he did a great
Sean
job. I
Connery
don't know
is
if I'd
the
say
best.
the best, but
yeah, he did a great job.
I don't really
enjoyed
have
him as-
enough context to,
Yeah.
I've seen most of Daniel Craig's multiple times. I don't have I can't make a judgment call.
Yeah. Yeah.
I trust you. You're the expert
Trust
in
me,
this
yeah.
house.
I know I've heard people, I'm sure it has a lot to do with the era that you grew up in. A lot of people are Roger Moore guys, and
Yeah.
I'm not, but I could see where if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, and that was your,
That was your
younger
James Bond,
years,
yeah.
that was your James Bond.
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan was my James Bond because
Right.
he was the James Bond when I got.
That was the first one you
started
saw,
getting
yeah.
it. Exactly. So Goldeneye is definitely his best one. Sean Connery, his best one in my opinion, which I think a lot of people would say the same, would be Goldfinger. That's his third one. That one's really good.
Daniel Craig's.
Daniel Craig's that's a hard one. Skyfall or Casino Royale.
Yeah, I was gonna say Casino Royale.
Skyfall is so good too.
That was his first, right? Casino Royale.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
that one so many times. It's so good. Just the cinematography, the sets, everything are so
It's
good.
I think that one has the best locations.
Yeah,
The most
yeah.
beautiful locations that any other Bond film. They kind of get a mix of a lot of great parts of the world in
Yeah.
that one. So
Now, as far as other movies that came out that year, how did that one kind of rank as far as
yeah.
what other movies came out in 1995?
So 95, and this goes back to my childhood. Some of these movies, I'm
No,
telling
I'm
you,
sure.
I'm like, oh,
Let's see, you were
Lord.
11. I would have been 9, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
9 or 10. Yeah, depending on the time of the year.
Yeah. So the number one film in 95 in the United States was Batman Forever.
Wow.
Throwback to our first
I know.
talking about in our first episode.
The joke or the Riddler, right? Yeah.
That was Riddler and Two-Face.
Riddler.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then Apollo 13. Toy Story came out in 95.
Oh,
That was the third best movie.
Golly.
Other ones were Pocahontas, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls,
Ace Ventura.
Casper, Die Hard with a Vengeance. Such a great Die Hard movie. That one needs to be on the list.
Yeah. We've seen those.
Crimson
Those would be
Tide.
for Christmas.
No, that was the first Die Hard. It was
Oh,
the
yeah,
Christmas
yeah.
one.
That's what I meant.
Not with a Vengeance. And Crimson Tide was and then Goldeneye was the 9th top grossing film that
Wow.
year. So,
It's kind of surprising, I think.
yeah, the other movies came out, like Dumb and Dumber came out that year. Clueless came out that year. Jumanji. So that was, a lot of good movies in 1995.
Yeah. The
So-
90s were great. That's why we have so many on the list. I'm telling you.
I know.
It's just good movies.
We grew up in the 90s. That was our childhood.
Yep.
It's the 90s.
Yep.
So it was James Bond, which is famously known for being released in November.
A lot of their movies are released in the fall, aren't they?
November is
Yeah.
their usual, and you'll see them different. It's production problems is probably the reason it got put. If something gets pushed to a different month.
Oh, I
But
just
it was
realized. I feel like they're always released in November. Yeah.
Traditionally, they're released in November.
It's funny.
So it was released on November 17th, 1995. Goldeneye is the 17th film of the franchise. A lot of history already with when Pierce Brosnan takes the helm. Director Martin Campbell. He directed Mask of Zorro, Legends of Zorro. He also directed Casino Royale, and
Wow.
and Green Lantern, if you like that kind of movie.
No comment.
No comment. I got you. I'm with you. A lot of the cast. There's a lot of great cast members from that time. We can talk about. We'll end up talking about a lot more than we did in our previous ones because I think there's a lot of great supporting characters in this one. But Pierce Brosnan, like we talked about, he's James Bond 007.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Just has that look, has the coolness, the
Yep.
everything. But like I said, he did Remington Steele in 82 to 87. And then he takes over. He did 4 James Bond films. He did Goldeneye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World's Not Enough, and Die Another Day. Any of those sound familiar?
Yes.
The names sound familiar. Yeah.
Yes, they all kind of run together, but somehow they all sound the same but different.
They do. They all have like a you can just tell what a James. You can like
Yeah.
tell the name of a James Bond. Like that sounds like a James Bond movie.
Yeah. I think that's probably should be a game.
Yeah. James Bond movie or not?
Or not, yeah, exactly. I'm sure there is one out there.
Yeah. Unless you just know James Bond films, you're like, that's...
Yeah.
And then other famous movies he was in was the Thomas Crown Affair, Dante's Peak, and one of your favorites, Mamma Mia.
Yeah, it's on my list, so y'all be looking forward to it.
And Sean Bean plays Alec Trevelyan, 006. You know Sean Bean at all?
I know he's in some films I've seen. His name does not ring a bell, but I'm sure the movies, if you read him out loud, I would know.
He plays a lot of villains.
Yeah, he's got that villain look to
He
him.
does. He did Patriot Games, Lord of the Rings, National Treasure.
That's where I remember him from. I was
yeah?
like, what was it I was remembering him from? We've only seen that movie a million times.
I know the kids have gotten introduced to it.
Yeah.
He was also in Troy, and he was in Game of Thrones, which we never watched. This is the fun fact about Sean Bean. He is famously known for his on-scene deaths. Like
Just dramatic.
it's just how many times he's
died on the screen.
He's died at least 23 times on film.
Well, he's at least died twice in this movie.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's twice, really.
Spoiler.
He did die twice in this movie.
For England, James? No. For me.
Right now he refuses to take roles
Unless
that
he
he
dies.
dies. No,
Oh,
he's
that he
died
does
yet.
die.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
He does
Why?
die.
I just keep it going.
Right.
Like, well, I'm known for dying in a movie.
You could go YouTube Sean Bean's deaths.
That's hilarious.
And it will have like a culmination of his.
Oh my God, I
it's
love
funny.
it. I thought it was just going to be like dramatic deaths.
Right.
It's like, ooh.
No, it's actually how many times he's died on film. He's died a lot of times in film. And then we have our Bond girl, Isabella. There's an 8. I'm going to butcher her name. You got lots of chances in this movie.
Yeah, a lot of Russian names. Yeah.
A lot of names to butcher in this one. Isabella Scorupio. Scorupio.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm sorry. She plays Natasha Simonova. She hasn't done much. She did Ring of Fire. She was a decent Bond girl.
I like her. Yeah, she has great hair. I was always so distracted. Every time I watch this movie, I'm always so distracted by her hair. It's so good. Like, it's so cute. I love it so. It's like it's just always moving and like the haircut style is like perfect for this time of. This movie came out. It's just like that short hair. Like that was when the women were having more of the short hair and the little curly hair. I don't know why. That's always just like. I mean, she's beautiful anyways, but like that. I just always thought that. Her as a Bond girl, she's very captivating, and I think that has to be a prerequisite to be a Bond girl.
They find a lot of exotic females to the exotic looks to these Bond girls and stuff.
What's your favorite Bond girl?
Bond girl. Okay, got me on the spot.
You don't have to name your top. You can just say.
Well, Halle Berry is hard to.
Yeah, she's good.
It's hard to knock. She's one of the top ones for sure. Ursula Andrews, the original Bond girl, she was a good one. So, I'd say Halle Berry.
Halle Berry. That was with Pierce Brosnan, right?
Yeah, that was.
Was that the last one he did?
That was Tomorrow Never Dies.
So Die Another Day was the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that one was Denise Richards in that one.
Okay.
I don't really like her as a Bond girl, But
I can't remember that one. I remember the Halle Berry movie. I
Yeah.
just can't remember if that was.
yeah, she did a great job.
Yeah, those were good.
And then we have Famke Jensen as Xenia Onatop.
Cannot stand this character. As soon as I couldn't
know.
remember what movie, because again, all the Bond movies kind of the titles always go together. So when he said Goldeneye, I was like, okay. And then we start watching it, and then she's like in the first part of the movie, and I was like,
Right after the title.
yeah.
one.
And I'm like, oh, it's this movie. I was like, I cannot stand this villain. I don't know why.
I mean,
she's great at what she's doing because I don't like her. So
Yeah, she does make a unique henchman as far as henchmen go in the Bond films, or henchwoman. She's our henchwoman. There's been several henchwomen, so, but all these henchmen always have these unique abilities and talents that are just common tropes for James Bond films. But she was a good one. She's a very liked henchman, unique. Those henchmen.
she's definitely unforgettable.
Yeah. She's got those thighs, I think, in this movie. That'll kill you. I think she was the Thigh Master. She was working at Thigh Master a little too much.
That's right. James Fonda needs to bring her in for her tapes.
I know, right? Is that Suzanne Summers who did the Thigh Master?
Suzanne Summer and James Fonda.
James Fonda. Maybe that's who it was.
Suzanne Summers did
Suzanne
too, yeah.
Summers too? Okay.
I think James Fonda started it and Suzanne Summers kind of came in too.
So yeah.
I know, her villain is always so reminiscent to the Austin Powers, spoofs off of villain names. I forget there was one in there that was really bad, but it was kind of similar to her.
I mean, they're famous for their innuendo style names. I mean,
Who? Austin Powers or 007?
No, 007.
Okay.
James Bond.
They both are.
And so they all make jokes about it. You know.
Even her whole name. I was thinking about it last night after we watched the movie. Ivana Onatop. Isn't that right?
Xenia Onatop.
Xenia Onatop. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was Ivana. That would have been even worse.
Ivana Onatop. Ivana B. Her's the middle name. Ivana B. Onatop.
I said middle initial is B.
I know, right?
Okay, that's not as bad. I thought it was even worse.
Xenia Onatop, right? And then you have one, and the one from Goldfinger is probably the most hilarious one.
Oh, I know that one.
Is Pussy Galore.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's terrible. That's when you're like, is that Austin Powers? I don't know.
I'm like, this is the 60s, man. They got away with that in the 60s like that?
Yeah. Well, they probably didn't think of it that way.
Oh,
like
yeah.
we would today.
Yeah, they were so oblivious. But I like Frankie. She played Jean Grey in the X-Men trilogy. She also did House on Haunted Hill.
Oh my God, that's her same girl. Wow, I did not know that.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and she was in Taken. She was the mom. I think the mom in Taken.
Oh yeah.
So I like her. Then we have Alan Cummings, who played Boris. His accent was hilarious. It was a character, man. He played that character well.
Yeah, he did.
He actually played opposite of Frankie Jensen in X-Men 2, X2,
Yes,
X-Men United
I recognize him.
as Nightcrawler. So.
Yeah, he was that morph guy, or the guy that moved.
Yeah,
right?
teleported everywhere.
Teleported,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. So
The blue guy.
we have Valentine Swarovski, who played by Robbie Coltrane. I love this character. He showed up in a couple of other Pierce Brosnans, but unfortunately he passed away last year.
Oh.
A lot of people know him. He played Hagrid in the Harry Potter franchise.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
he
We just started watching. Well, not started. We finished, but we watched this with the kids this year
yeah, the Harry Potter films.
Yeah.
We watched all those this year
for the first time.
for the first time.
We never watched them when they came out, but yeah, the kids and I really enjoyed it.
But yeah, I really like Valentine. He was a fun character.
Yeah.
And to have around to show up and stuff, and he did great. And then the amazing Judi Dench as M.
Yes.
She played M for 22 years. She played all through Pierce Brosnan, and then she played M in Daniel Craig films, and then until they killed her off in Skyfall.
Yeah.
And that when she was replaced.
Just a staple in that whole series. It's just great.
And then they replace, a commonly male role with her. And I mean, just when they sit down, when M sits down again, opposite of Pierce Brosnan or James Bond, and they have that little back and forth, and she's like, "You don't like my methods, Bond. You think I'm whatever old, and she goes back and she's like, you don't think that you don't think I'm afraid to send you off to your death, and then she says, come back. Then she says, come back alive. So
you don't like me, Bond. You don't like my methods. You think I'm an accountant, a bean counter, more interested in my numbers than your instincts.
The thought had occurred to me.
Good, because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War, whose boyish charms, though wasted on me, obviously appeal to that young woman I sent out to evaluate you.
Point taken.
That was great.
I know. See, I only knew M as her because I had never seen any other ones. Like Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig were pretty much the James Bond that I grew up with. That when I did watch them, the ones that I've known. So I never really knew any other M but her because she was both of them. So she was like the 1990s up.
So, like I said, she did great. She won an Oscar for as best actress in a supporting role for her role in Shakespeare in Love.
Oh wow!
And we can't go on without talking about Q, Desmond. Oh gosh, I didn't even look at his last name. Sorry, but Q. This was the original Q. He did. He started in he did 17 James Bond films.
Wow.
He did his first introduction in film was in From Russia with Love, which was the second James Bond film. So he played James Bond until he passed away in 1999. He even played Q in the 1995 James Bond film The World Is Not Enough. So he played Q until he passed away.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, I mean, I think it would just be awesome. I mean, he's the only one that obviously went that far with any of those roles to see all the different James Bonds. The only one he didn't play opposite against was Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig, yeah.
So and the banter, in every one of them, they're so great. I look forward to the scenes of Q and James Bond getting his gadgets and
a pen. This is a class 4 grenade. 3 clicks, arms the 4-second fuse. Another 3 disarms it.
How long did you say the fuse was?
Oh, grow up, 007.
They all said the pen was mightier than the sword.
Thanks to me, they were right.
What's going on behind the scenes. This one was really funny. The background, background stuff going on, and all the one-liners. So, like you said, you had seen this several times with me. Was it as good as you remember? Was it as bad as you remember? What did you feel about when you first saw it versus now?
I mean, I don't remember the first time I saw it. Obviously, it was with you, but I know we've seen it on TV a lot. And I think sometimes when you watch movies on TV, you kind of get bits and pieces of it, whether it's because you stepped out during a commercial or whatever. But I feel like that's most time I've ever seen it was on TV, because it does come on TV quite often, or any James Bond does. But especially by watching these films and doing what we're doing, you do pay attention more. Like you even said that with Pretty Woman. You said you paid a lot more attention to it than you probably would have normally. And yeah, even though I have seen this movie, a handful of times, it was enjoyable. Like I feel like I enjoyed it more just because I knew what was coming up. Like I have some good favorite scenes and parts in the movie. Like one of my favorite scenes was the tank scene.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It was just like, I always love.
It's so James Bond.
Yes, well, that's what the thing too is, like, I like that, and I'm assuming in the past James Bond movies too, there's always some sort of chase scene.
Yeah.
That's just a spy type film. It's always a chase scene, and normally it's a car chase scene. And of course, Daniel Craig's chase scenes are, infamous. They're so cool, and they do all these kinds of special effects, but no one has done a tank chase scene.
I'm trying to remember a tank chase scene. especially in the streets of St. Petersburg.
I know, just tearing it up.
Just tearing up. No, this does not care what he's running through. Went through the alley. That was a good scene.
Yeah, it was so good. Like, and I'm sure it was pretty hard to film. Like, I don't know how they even filmed half that stuff. And some of it was kind of, was chachi, it was not the greatest effects. I always thought it was funny because I'm assuming that they filmed it not in full force fast mode, because you could tell that they sped it up in certain parts because the people were like going super fast, like running out of the way and stuff. Like, it was sped up, but like the car looked normal, but all the other people were like crazy going everywhere. But I mean, and then like I've never seen a tank move that fast either. Like, it caught up to that car so quick. And then like even when they got back to the train station, and then the tank was in the under the bridge, we both were like, how'd they get there so fast?
Yeah. I was going to talk about that. That's the only problem. The biggest problem I have in Goldeneye was how fast that tank got in front of the train to turn around and come back through the tunnel. So I'm like, what? Would they go the long way? Like, or how long did it take for them to actually get going? I guess, but
I don't know what kind of train that is either that survived a blast from the tank. Like, it
was
really
definitely armored.
Yeah, it did look pretty heavily armored, but I was like, I don't know how those people in the train weren't more busted up than they were. Like, no scrapes, no blood, no nothing.
Oh yeah. I know they were, and it stopped pretty quick. It seemed like it stopped pretty quick.
Yeah. Is that your favorite scene, or do you have a different one?
The favorite scene, that one is my favorite action scene was the tank scene. I think the opening sequence is really good. All these James Bond films have a really good opening scene. I think that's just a common trope, is a good opening scene.
And I think I've missed that. I don't think I've ever seen that opening scene before.
Yeah.
But it really does kind of tie into the movie.
It does.
Obviously,
and some of them don't. Some of them are like one-offs, and it kind of shows you where he ended. It's kind of like where he's showing you where he's ended his last mission before he gets to his next mission. But some of them are important to the storyline for that film. I also like the fight scene on the antenna. It was really good, especially when they were in close quarters. They looked like they were really going at it and beating each other up between Alec and Bond. They were really just throwing punches and really hurting. It looked like they were really hurting each other. Even running around the antenna was really good. Outside of action, my favorite scene was when Bond meets Valentin Swarkovsky in the club.
Walther PPK. 7.65 millimeter. Only 3 men I know use such a gun. I believe I've killed 2 of them.
Lucky me.
I think not.
That scene was... I just love their interaction.
Yeah.
Their
banter.
on-screen banter, the writing, and then
the girl singing terribly in the background.
Minnie Driver, I think.
Yes.
Yep. I saw that she got paid $5,000 for that. That's it.
Dang.
That was like early in her career, I guess.
Yeah.
And stuff,
that was a lot back then. I think she was probably pretty happy with that. Get on stage and embarrass herself.
Without be like, who? What did he say? Who brought in the cat?
Oh yeah, who's ringing out the cat or something like that? Yeah.
So
strangling the cat.
Who strangled the cat?
I'm strangling the cat.
Strangling a cat. That is Irina, my mistress.
Pray tell him to go.
So I did, like I said, I like the Valentin's character, and I like him and Bond. They're back and forth. I guess Pierce Brosnan were just good on screen together. So those are my favorite scenes on that. In this and Goldeneye, being the first of the franchise for a new actor, they had to hit all the common James Bond tropes.
Yeah.
They had like I said, the opening sequence. They had the opening title with your favorite. Your current famous singer. Which this one was Tina Turner. And then you got the silhouette of the naked women on screen. They always have a different way of doing that in all of them.
Those are always so cool. I love that.
Yeah, they're very interesting. They're always like, if you really pay attention, especially better go back and watch it after you watched it. Go back and watch the title. opening credits with it, you know, like how it kind of ties in like all this Russian stuff. And like I said, this one had this was after the fall of communist Russia, so they had all those old communist statues and stuff, and they're like hammering at it, you know, like they have that Lay Down Yard or whatever that has all the old Russian statues where he meets Alec and stuff. It's just that's all just looks like just old communist Russia Lay Down Yard of all their stuff. But you know, this movie had, you know, couldn't go without James Bond in the tuxedo. You know, Pierce Brosnan wears a tuxedo very well.
Yes, he does.
He ordered his vodka martini.
Vodka martini. Shaken, not stirred.
Yep. And had to do the line, you know, shaken, not stirred.
That's right.
and how does she take hers, Caleb?
Straight up with a twist.
I don't know how many times you quoted this movie.
I quoted it several times while we were watching
Yes, you
it. You know, and he has to seduce at least one woman.
Yeah.
You know, he has, you know, what's the James Bond film without seducing women? But
I think he seduced two, didn't he? The psychiatrist in the beginning, and then the Bond girl. Yeah.
So yeah, and then he was going to on the top, but she was going to try to kill him.
Yeah, I think he realized that.
I was like, when they come up face to face, when they're in the pool, the sauna, and he's like holding the gun to her, and she just like comes straight up to her, like right in his face, like head to head. And he's like, "That's close enough."
Yeah.
You know, there's James Bond movies. They have all these boxes to check, and they checked a lot of boxes in this one.
I think that's why it worked so well for him too. Like it was a good start off for him.
Yeah, you know, and this movie is a pretty easy plot to follow. I mean, there's nothing. Yeah. You know, you get some spy thrillers that are just bouncing all around and trying to keep up with who's who and what's going on, and that's what I liked about it. Especially, probably what I liked about it, especially when I was younger, was a pretty simple plot to follow. You know, you have the twist of, you know, his friend 006, you know, betrays him. He's the antagonist of the film. But if you watch the trailer, that's all in the trailer. That was evidently no surprise that they didn't keep that a secret of him being the antagonist. But like I said, you also have the famous henchman that's got the special ability. So a lot of boxes checked. So, well, let me ask you who your favorite actor in the film, best acting and worst acting.
I don't know. I always hate doing the worst acting because I feel like they always do good. Like it's usually just the characters I don't like.
Yeah.
I mean, best acting, of course, it's got to go to Pierce Brosnan. I mean, he was fantastic. Like, and I don't know. I can't say worst acting. I mean, I could say my worst character.
What's your least favorite character?
I really didn't like Boris.
Okay.
It was really annoying. But I think he was
I am invincible.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I think he was supposed to be.
I
really didn't care for Onatop. But again, that's the point. Like, she's supposed to be gross. that's all she was.
Yeah. She was.
She did a good job.
Yeah. I think Pierce Brosnan was the best acting. He did the best. Probably Judi Dench wasn't in that much, but I think she did a great job. A lot of them did a great job. My least favorite acting job was General Ormov.
Oh yeah.
I didn't really like his character.
No.
He did nothing to really stand out to make it.
Very one note.
Yeah. I didn't really like his character. Just kind of comic-y sometimes. Just like he wasn't the tough lead bad guy in the film, so he was just, and then his death was like very anticlimactic.
Very insignificant.
Yeah. So.
Well, he really wasn't the villain. I mean, in reality, it was Alec. That was the villain. We didn't know that the whole time, but
right. And then you have Xenia on the top. She's running around with Ormov, General Ormov, in the beginning of the film. Mm-hmm. So you think that he's the main bad guy, right. But then they, obviously they flip it there. But like I said, it's no secret if you were watching the movies. If you're watching the trailers, I should say. Like I said, the only problem I really had plot-wise was the tank scene we had talked about, the getting around there. I just laugh at that every time I watch it.
How'd it get there?
Okay, the CGI and the special effects. Obviously, there's a lot of special effects. in this one, a lot of practical effects, obviously, with explosions and
Yeah.
tearing stuff up and just rolling through. I don't know how many vehicles that they tore up in this.
Well, that was kind of the whole joke with
Yeah.
her too. Was like, do you tear up every vehicle you get into?
Right, it's a
Like,
standard operating
yep.
procedure.
Yeah, that's a James Bond standard operating procedure.
Exactly. Or when he's doing his, in the very beginning when they're in the French Riviera or wherever they're at, he's driving down the road. He's like, "Do you always have to drive this fast?" He's like, "You'd be surprised," or what? More often than you think, or something. Like, yeah, he's always in a chase scene, always running for his life in a car. But did you know that the CGI in the opening of the film, where they always do the down the gun barrel, where James Bond shoots back toward the gun barrel, the gun barrel in that scene was CGI, and that was the first CGI in any James Bond film.
Wow,
So
that's cool. I always wondered how they did that.
yeah,
I guess before then it
before
wasn't
that was probably
CGI.
like they probably have like a pipe or
yeah.
something, and it's got the stuff and probably layers.
Iconic.
Yep, you had to put that in there.
Yeah.
And it's in the beginning of every scene and it's in the beginning of every movie except for Casino Royale. They did it at the very end. And I thought that was for a choice because he wasn't the James Bond we know yet in Casino Royale, because it was like his progression, because he wasn't a 00 agent until in the film.
End, yeah.
Well, not in the end, but in that opening sequence. But anyways, we won't talk about Casino Royale.
I know.
Not this time.
Add it to the list.
Oh, it's definitely a list. I almost did it for this one, but it was a little bit newer.
Yeah.
We had thought about like a little bit about the sets and locations. Like I said, this one doesn't have a lot of good locations.
Yeah.
Like I said, not as much good as a lot of other James Bond films. You get a lot of Russia, like, that communist Russia look, the gray and stuff.
Snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did go to the Caribbean. Bond is famous for doing some kind of scene in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So they end up in Cuba and stuff. But the best one maybe was
They've done Cuba before, or they do Cuba again in the James Bond movies, don't they? And that was like the one.
They do, yeah. They've done a lot of different places in the Caribbean. They've done Cuba. They've done Cuba before. And then they've had, I think I guess that's a French Riviera. I'm not sure what town that was they were in the scene where when they meet Zanya and they do the poker, or not the poker, the baccarat.
Oh, yeah.
Baccarat, what's it called? Baccarat.
No idea.
I think. Where the cars they're playing in the casino. In the casino scene, that's whatever town that is. It must be in the French Riviera somewhere. That was the best looking place they had. Also, you gotta talk about the music, the Tina Turner, the opening sequence.
Goldeneye.
I'm gonna cut that.
Please.
Goldeneye, you'll do what I please. Goldeneye, no time for sweetness, but a bitter kiss will bring him to his knees.
No, Tina Turner, she did a good job, and that was actually written by Bono and The Edge from U2. So, like I said, there's a lot of good theme songs. That one's pretty good. I like the Tina Turner Goldeneye song. And then we got to talk about the quotes. We
did already talk about a lot of them.
We did talk about a lot of them, and you're gonna have all the things you're gonna have the quotes you're always gonna get in James Bond films.
Shaken, not stirred.
Yeah, vodka martini, shaken, not stirred.
Yeah.
Or the name's Bond, James Bond.
Yep.
Yeah, and he always has James Bond in this film, especially always has great one-liners.
Yeah.
Like when Xenia dies, and then in the tree, which was a pretty hilarious way to die. And then he goes, "She always enjoyed a good squeeze."
She always did enjoy a good squeeze.
I think I even said that before he said it. Not that part, but I said something like, "Well, that's how she liked it done, didn't she?" Sounds pretty similar.
It was too easy. They couldn't.
Yeah.
Then you have, we talked about the one that says, "Do you destroy every vehicle you get into?"
Mm-hmm.
Standard operating procedure. And then you have, I like the one where Natalia goes, when the defense minister and Bond are going back and forth, and he's like, "Stop it, you two." He's like, "You were like boys with toys."
Boys with toys. Yep, you did that quote.
I like that one.
Who is behind your attack on Severnaya?
Who would the authorization cost?
Russia may have changed, but the penalty for terrorism is still death.
And
Mr.
what's the
Bond.
penalty for treason?
Oh, stop it, both of you. Stop it. You're like boys with toys.
And then he revisits that quote later on with the
Oh yeah,
boys with toys.
That's
yeah.
right. I like when they're in the lab with Q and he goes, "Don't touch that. That's my lunch."
Yeah.
Well, we talked about who strangled the cat, and Bond says, "Oh, I really like the one with Alec and Bond." He goes in the opening sequence. He says, Bond goes, "It's too easy," and then Alec says, "Half of everything is luck, James." And Bond goes, "And the other half?" And then the alarm starts going off. And he goes, "Fate."
Yep.
It's too easy. Half of everything is luck, James. And the other half? Fate.
So, what was your favorite
My favorite line?
from the movie?
I don't know. It wasn't my favorite line. But I did love the interaction between him and M in the beginning.
Yeah,
I thought that was really good.
That's a long dialogue for us to
to dissect, but no,
to put on here. But
I guess my favorite line from that one was, I guess, when he was leaving, and she says that multiple times. I know she said that, not in this movie, but like throughout the franchise. Yeah, come back alive.
Yeah,
I know she said that to Daniel Craig several times.
That's
yeah,
cool.
But I think that was kind of her shaking not stirred.
Right.
Come back alive.
Come back alive, Jim. And I think we should start. This is going to be our new category: is best product placement.
I think you said that last time, and we forgot to talk about it.
I don't know. It might have been a prequel to this one.
Yeah, because you were talking about it with Pretty Woman about. I think you were referring to the car. Is that what you were going to refer to? The product placement was the car that he was driving in the beginning.
Remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember that one.
Oh, well, it's okay. Now we'll move on to this one.
Yeah. So the best product placement is either the BMW,
Yeah.
which is in all the James Bond or Pierce Brosnan films. He had a BMW in that one. He even had like a BMW car in this one. He didn't do nothing with it. It was definitely just for product placement. Like, here's a new BMW, and then you got the Perrier cans when the tank runs through.
Oh yeah,
the Perrier water,
cans, yeah.
the water, water or whatever. And so I think it was supposed to be Pepsi cans, but Perrier came through, and I think they donated gave them. I guess it would have donated it since it was a product placement for them, but they gave them 90,000 cans for that. So that was hilarious. I think the BMW gets the best product placement.
Stand out, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll run through a couple of facts and then we'll get to closing here. I talked about. Oh, this was interesting. I thought this was interesting. This is the first James Bond film that was completely original. All the other ones had was based on In Fleming books. I mean, In Fleming wrote all the James Bond books and shorts and everything, were inspired by it, but this one was completely original. Famke Jensen broke a rib during the sauna fight scene.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. He was
she said not hold
shaking
back.
around everywhere.
Yeah, I think she told him that the walls were padded just so he would so it looked real. The bungee jump scene in the beginning, they jumped down off the dam, and there was I'm not going to try to name that name, but it's a dam in Switzerland that set a record for the highest bungee jump from a fixed structure at 720 feet. So that was at the time. It set the record. And the guy who performed that, Wayne Michaels, which we don't see his face obviously in that scene because it's supposed to be James Bond, but he's actually one of the fighter pilots that On the Top kills. One of the Tiger pilots.
Oh, in the beginning, yeah.
In the Tiger. So he was actually one of those, so he actually got an extra part in there. Thought that was interesting. Before filming started, Brosnan hurt his hand in an accident in his house. For a little while, he required a hand stand-in during shooting that involved close-ups and his son Christopher was his stand-in for his hand. He had a hand stand-in.
Wow.
All right, that's all I got on that. So let's start wrapping it up. So let's do the his and her ratings.
All right.
So
I think I'll surprise you on this one.
I know. I'm not as worried about this one as I was, but I am scared after our last review because I don't think you enjoyed my rating of Pretty Woman.
I didn't, but I understood.
So what was your rating?
I give it a 4.
You get a 4? Okay.
Yeah, I get a 4. I mean, Pierce Brosnan, he takes it home. I probably would have given it a higher rating if it wasn't for Anna Top. I'm gonna be honest. They were great. I just don't like the character.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that's part of the James Bond genre. Whole franchise is having those henchmen that are kind of weird and quirky, and she definitely was. Yeah. But no, I like Pierce Brosnan, and this is not my favorite Pierce Brosnan one. I liked the one with Halle Berry.
Okay, yeah.
That's the one with like the snow and like that's the only part I can remember is like the very beginning. He's like starts off with the snow and like snowmobiles and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know how it starts. I can't remember how it starts, but there's like they go to the ice.
Yes, there's something in there about the ice
palace and stuff.
Yeah. But that was my favorite one. Why I couldn't tell you, probably because I really like Halle Berry in that. But I know you like this movie, and I've seen it many times. Yeah. But I always see something different when I watch it. So I think that's good to notice about it. But yeah, no, I give it a 4. I give it a solid 4.
Solid 4, right?
Yeah.
All right, it's your highest. So Batman, you did a 3.
Yeah, we're getting higher.
And I got a 4. So my goal is to get you to a 5.
Might not get there.
I have some films we both like.
Yeah. Well, that's not fair.
I know, right? I'm gonna cheat.
I know you're gonna cheat. Just give me it to a 5.
That's right. So let's look forward to talk about our next one. Looking forward to it. You get the next pick.
Yep, I get the next pick.
I don't even know if you decided. If you told me before you ever decided.
I have decided.
Okay.
Really just because I can't make up my mind. So there's one that keeps sticking out to me. So we kind of, again, I think we talked about this on the last podcast, was, how are we going to do like the his and her? Like, are we going to do something that's kind of, I mean, we can't do similar, obviously, but like within the same year, within the same time of year, or, what if we pull from the same actors in the movie, that kind of thing. Because we talked about doing Mamma Mia because Pierce Brosnan's in that, but that's mid 2000s. I feel like that's so far from this type of vibe that we're trying to go to right now.
I will do early 2000s. We'll get there.
Yeah. So I picked Clueless.
Clueless. Oh, okay, yes. You decided on Clueless. Nice.
Yeah, it's a 1995 film.
Oh yeah, we just said that.
Yeah, 1995.
Same year.
Yep. And we said it was. It's
who's
one
that?
Of the top
who is in
grossing.
that? I can't remember who's the lead in that.
Oh gosh, you're gonna put me on the spot. Yeah, so this is with Alicia Silverstone, Paul Rudd, Brittany Murphy.
Paul Rudd is
in this movie. Yes.
All right, yes. I like Paul Rudd. All right, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if I've seen all of it. I've probably seen clips, and I mean, I remember the scenes where they're like walking to school.
It's such an iconic movie. Like, I feel like if you are, teens and 20s and you haven't seen Clueless, you have got to see this movie. It is so good, and I hope it stands the test of time because it is very quirky, and it's very, it makes sense when we watched it in the 90s. And I just hope that it makes sense now. You know what I mean? There's so many phrases and like the lingo back in the 90s, which nobody really talked like this in the 90s. I'm just going to preface it with that. But in the movie, and plus this movie was, I believe, and I could be wrong, I'll correct it if I'm wrong in the next one,
research.
But I believe that it was taking place in California, Bel Air area. So they do talk differently than we talk down here in the South. The lingo in it is just classic. But yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, definitely rewatch it with us. Have you seen this movie before? Or you said you've seen?
I've seen bits of it. I've seen clips.
You probably do like you do with Pretty Woman and realize you never saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an iconic movie, so I'm sure you've seen clips of it. But yeah. Yeah,
they
Paul
have all
Brosnan's
that. They
movie.
have a heavy '90s influence of like. There's like what school they're in school. There's a lot of '90s influence, all that. So I'm curious to how that holds up.
Yeah,
too.
costuming, superb. It's classic. It's great. So I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I haven't seen it in a while, probably the past couple of years. I always like to bring, most of these movies that I'm going to be picking are movies that I like to see on the regular.
Yeah, that's fair.
If they're on TV, I'm like, oh, I'm turning it on.
Well, it looks like I just Googled it. It looks like you can watch these on, you might be able to find it on Paramount Plus or HBO Max.
Or
you can always rent
Amazon
it
Prime,
on Amazon Prime.
Apple
we
TV.
had to do that already, so that's fine. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the His and Her Rewatch podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Yeah, see you next time.
Bye.